Hello, everyone. My name's Jamie, and first of all, I'd like to give thanks to God in heaven, Master Lee, and Rocky for giving me the opportunity to share this message with you today. So, we are going to talk about not one, not two, three, the three pillars of veganism. Okay, so, and not in any particular order. The number one pillar is health. People come to veganism because more and more people understand that a vegan diet is not only healthier, but you can thrive even more on a vegan diet. Number two, some people come to veganism because of compassion to sentient beings. They don't want to kill animals or birds or anything. They don't want to kill things that want to live so that they can eat them. Okay? Then also, vegans don't want to cause suffering to any animals, so they don't consume dairy or eggs. But then the third reason that some people come to veganism is for the environment. Animal agriculture creates a tremendous amount of damage to our little blue ball out there. So we're going to talk about those three. So let's start with numero uno. Number one, health. Okay, so health. Everyone pretty much knows now eating meat is not really the best thing for you. The number one killer in the United States and probably in a lot of other countries, but number one killer in the United States, premature deaths, is heart disease. And it's caused from your diet. Okay, so 50%. So take a look to the left. If there's a person there, you see a person? Okay, well, 50%. So that means either them or you will die of a heart attack or heart disease. Okay, the number two killer in the United States is cancer. So chances are everybody here listening today has heard of or usually knows somebody that got cancer and went through chemo and all the treatments and everything, and they either survived or they didn't. Now, there are plenty of good books out there. One of the excellent ones is How Not to Die by Dr. Michael Greger. So that's Dr. Michael Greger from nutritionfacts.org. So if you go to nutritionfacts.org, Dr. Greger goes through all the different studies that come out about this and that and about food and things you can eat and all kinds of things. You can go to the site and you can do a search if you're interested in cancer or heart disease or a certain type of cancer or the arsenic in rice or whatever you're concerned with or think about. You could go do a search. He has many videos, a lot of 5-minute videos, a few long videos. How Not to Die, you could watch that one. That's about an hour video. And so what does Dr. Greger say about the food that we eat? Let's check it out right here. Let's check it out in the introduction. Most deaths in the United States are preventable, and they are related to what we eat. Our diet is the number one cause of premature death and the number one cause of disability. Okay, so here we have Dr. Greger's Daily Dozen. Okay, you got that? Read it? Okay, good. Everybody got that? Did you write it down? Okay, well, in case you didn't get a chance to write it down, here's what Dr. Greger's Daily Dozen is. Now, these are things you consume every day. 12 items you should consume every day, according to him, for the healthiest diet. Okay, now, I don't do all of this because I follow the 80-10-10 diet, 80-10-10 diet, fruitarian diet. Now, that may not be for you, but it works great for me and for many of my friends. But the Daily Dozen, according to Dr. Greger, 1, 2, 3 servings of beans every day. 1 serving of berries every day. 1, 2, 3 servings of other fruits every day. 1 serving of cruciferous vegetables, kale, broccoli, cauliflower, things like that, cruciferous vegetables. Bok choy, I think, is cruciferous. 2 servings of greens every day. 2 servings of other vegetables. 1 serving of flax seeds. 1 serving of nuts. 1 serving of spices. 1, 2, 3 servings of whole grains. Now, whole grains could be rice, preferably brown rice, quinoa, things like that. Could be whole wheat if you don't have a problem with the gluten. So whole grains. Okay, I don't consume whole grains every day. I consume whole grains on occasion because I stay mostly raw with fruit and vegetables, of course. Okay, and then 5 servings of beverages every day. Now that includes water, and if you like tea, then teas, but make sure you're getting enough hydration. Now with me eating mostly fruit, I get hydration from the fruit. It's very hydrating. Okay, and then 1, exercise every day. Dr. Greger's Daily Dozen. So that's a quick little thing about health. So now let's go on to number 2, which will be compassion for sentient beings. Sentient beings feel pain, think, or can be happy, sad. We don't want to kill them, to eat them. They want to live just like we do. So a vegan decides not to eat animals or cause them to suffer or wear their skins. Okay, vegetarian versus vegan, you hear a lot of the terminology gets mixed up, but vegan is somebody that avoids all animal products, don't wear leather and don't eat animals and don't drink the milk of animals that are designed for other animals, and don't eat eggs because those chickens suffer, and then the male chicks are all killed. So, but going vegan is one of the best things you can do to stop animal cruelty by far. And by refusing to pay for animal products, you reduce the demand for them, which ensures fewer animals are bred to suffer and die on farms and in slaughterhouses. So PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, says being vegan is as good for humans' health as it is for animals' welfare. There is no nutritional need for humans to eat any animal product. All our dietary needs, even infants and children, are best supplied by a meatless diet. Okay, we know that. We talked about that in the health part. Okay, so, but we're going to talk now about factory farming. Okay, animals are much more intelligent and complex than most people recognize. And scientists are providing more and more evidence of this all the time. Okay, according to researchers, cows enjoy mental challenges and get excited when they use their intellect to overcome an obstacle. When cows figure out a solution to a problem, their brain waves showed their excitement, their heartbeat went up, and some even jumped into the air. Scientists now know that pigs have the cognitive skills, okay, they can think like a 3-year-old human child. They're smarter than dogs. Biologists wrote in Fish and Fisheries that fish are, quote, steeped in social intelligence, pursuing Machiavellian strategies of manipulation, punishment, and reconciliation, exhibiting stable cultural traditions, and cooperating to inspect predators and catch food. Chickens form friendships and social hierarchies, recognize one another, develop a pecking order, and even have cultural knowledge that is passed between generations. Now that would be chickens, of course, that aren't in these tiny little chicken boxes or these massive chicken houses that house 100,000 chickens at once. So nearly all the animals raised for food in America today spend their lives on factory farms. Okay, these animals who feel pain and fear just as the dogs and cats who share our homes do. They're separated from their families and crammed by thousands into filthy warehouses. They're mutilated without the use of painkillers and deprived of everything that is natural and important to them. They won't be permitted to see the sun or breathe fresh air until the day when they are forced onto trucks bound to the slaughterhouse. On the killing floor, many animals are completely conscious and struggling to escape while their throats are cut. And some are still conscious when their bodies are hacked apart or when they're dunked into tanks of scalding hot water. Okay, so here's the bottom line for animal cruelty. They're beaten, they're abused, they're kicked, they're shocked. It's a terrible existence. So here's the life of a cow, a young cow that's going to be for beef. He gets grown up, fed a bunch of food that he naturally doesn't eat, gets infections, given antibiotics to help with that. Not a very comfortable way to live. And then he walks up a chute, and then they take a bolt gun, which is a air-powered, big, long stainless steel bolt that shoots down into the skull. The guy's on top shoots it down into his skull, and hopefully hits the right spot, kills the cow. Sometimes it paralyzes the cow. Guess what? The cow's still alive. Paralyzed, can't move. Still gets strung up by the hooks, by the legs, gets skinned, still alive, feeling every bit, just can't move. Gets skinned alive, and then gets cut up into pieces while he's still alive. Now, if the bolt gun hits the right spot, then it does kill the cow. And then he gets hacked up and chopped up into pieces, and then the graveyard of his body goes to the store, into those little packages that some people choose to buy. Now, your dairy cow, that's a whole different story. So the dairy cow, she is artificially impregnated, has her baby, and then right away the baby is taken from her. Guess what happens to that cow when the baby's taken? She cries. You can see the tears coming out. The cow moans and cries. Imagine what would happen if a human had a baby and then it was just taken away. You would cry, emotionally distraught. Well, that happens to the cow. And then she's hooked up to machines so that the milk designed for that baby cow that she doesn't have any longer gets pumped out to be fed to humans, even though it's baby calf growing food, not human food. Well, guess what? She has to stay pregnant to continue producing milk. So they do the process again. She has another baby. Guess what? Baby's taken from her. She cries. They do that about 5 times. About a year it takes, so each process. So, and then after about 5 years, a cow that normally would live about 25 years can't do it anymore. And so that cow, and that one gets ground up into hamburgers. So your hamburger meat are your old dairy cows that aren't used anymore. And so, and of course the muscle meats are ground up. All the other parts, they don't get thrown away. They get ground up into other things that they could sell. They sell like in hot dogs and things like that. And then if it's really bad parts, it goes into animal feed, like dog food, cat food, things like that. So that's your dairy cow. Now chickens. Let's go back to the chickens. Okay. The chickens that lay eggs, they're in these little tiny cramped cages. Their beaks are burned off so they don't peck each other, because they go insane because they can't live in their natural environment. So they go insane. So they start to peck at each other. If their beaks are good, then they hurt each other. So they burn their beaks off. Oh yeah, without any pain medication. Yeah, it's very painful, but they burn the beak off. And so then these tiny little cages, they can barely move. They can't turn around. They can barely move. Their feet sometimes get stuck to the wire of the cages. So those are your egg layers. And then when they can't lay anymore, then they get chopped up into some kind of food. So, but the male chicks aren't needed when you have egg laying type of chickens. So when they need more, they let them hatch. But the males don't make it. So there's 2 ways they get rid of the males. They're going down a little chute. The males go down one chute, the females go down another chute, so they can suffer as egg layers. The males either get down into a rotating grinder, a meat grinder, and they get ground up alive. Otherwise, if they don't get ground up alive, they just go into a big garbage can or a bin, and then eventually the ones underneath smother to death. But they all die. All the baby male chicks, they die at 1 year old. 1 day old, not 1 year old, no. They don't make it 1 year old. So they die. It's horrible. So if you're eating eggs, just think of those ground up baby male chicks, and the fact that eggs are just not very healthy for you anyway. Pigs are extremely, extremely intelligent, and same with the pigs. They're in these tiny, tiny little crates. Their hooves are not even. One is deeper than the other. That helps them when they're digging around and rooting around when they're out in the wild. Well, what happens when they're on a flat floor like they are in their little pens, it creates a tremendous amount of pain and deformity, which of course doesn't affect selling the meat, but it's extremely painful to pigs. Pigs are raised in very horrible conditions, as all of the billions of animals that are raised to be killed and eaten. Okay, so here we are with pillar number 3 of veganism, the environment. So some people come to veganism because they recognize that the number one thing that you can do for the environment is to become a vegan. And that is absolutely true. The number one thing you can do for the environment is to become a vegan. So if you call yourself an environmentalist, then you're a vegan. You have to be. So once you embrace all three pillars of veganism, it's very unlikely that you will go back to the pain and suffering and emotional distress of farming, agricultural farming of animals. Okay, so some of the things with the environment is greenhouse gases. Okay, animal agriculture is responsible for way more greenhouse gases than the combined exhaust from all transportation, trains, planes, automobiles, buses, everything. Animal agriculture far exceeds that. Okay, it's 51% of all worldwide greenhouse gas emissions comes from animal agriculture. Then also you have nitrous oxide. Livestock is responsible for 65% of all human-related emissions of nitrous oxide, okay, which is almost 3 times more powerful than carbon dioxide as far as global warming, and it stays in the atmosphere 150 years. Okay, and then these emissions for agriculture are projected just to keep going up. So because more people around the world want to eat meat. So we need to not only become vegan, we need to tell other people about the destructive nature of eating farmed animals. Okay, let's look at the water usage of raising animals. If you look at like a pound of beef, it takes 2,500 gallons of water to make 1 pound of beef. So let's talk about eggs. 477 gallons of water are required to produce 1 pound of eggs. 1,000 gallons of water are required to produce 1 gallon of milk. None of this makes sense. And the fact that dairy is a horrible thing to put in your body. Not even close to anything else. Dairy is by far the worst thing you can put in your body. So livestock or livestock feed occupies 1/3 of the entire Earth's ice-free land. Every minute, 7 million pounds of excrement are produced by animals raised for food in the U.S. A farm with 2,500 cows, not a big farm, produces the same amount of waste as a city of 411,000 people. 2,500 cows, 411,000 people. Okay, now what's going on with the oceans? 3/4 of the ocean's fisheries are exploited or depleted. 90 to 100 million tons of fish are pulled from our oceans each year. Bycatch. So for every 1 pound of fish caught, up to 5 pounds of unintended marine species are caught and discarded as bykill. Humanity. So humanity. 80% of antibiotics sold in the U.S. are for livestock. They're being pumped up with antibiotics. Pandemics. Guess where they come from? Animal agriculture. More than 6 million animals are killed for food every single hour. 1.5 acres can produce 37,000 pounds of plant-based food. 1.5 acres can produce 375 pounds of beef. It doesn't work. It doesn't make sense. Each day, a person who eats a vegan diet saves 1,100 gallons of water, 45 pounds of grain, 30 square feet of forested land, 20 pounds of CO2 equivalent, and 1 animal's life. So the bottom line is that everyone should be vegan. There's really no reason to not be vegan. It's healthier. You don't have to kill or cause the suffering of all of these animals. We don't have to strip the oceans of the fish and the sharks and the whales and the things that we need in our ocean. The oceans are lungs. We need the oceans, and they're being decimated with dead zones and by taking out the life of the oceans. We don't need it, okay? We don't need it. So if you're not vegetarian or vegan, now you know that you should be. For compassion for animals, for your health, and for the environment. So with all that, I must say goodbye. Thank you for having me here today. Sorry I couldn't be here in person. Thank you, God. Thank you, Master Lee. Thank you, Rocky. And thanks to all of you out there that are now realizing you don't need to kill to eat. Thank you.